Well, good day. Welcome back to Restorooster OHV. If you remember, some time ago we replaced the control arm bushings on our YXZ1000R and noticed that the tie rods, inner tie rods, had some play to it. Purchased the inner tie rods, just haven't had a chance to get to it, but today is the day. Stick around. Well, here are our brand new Yamaha original equipment tie rods, and it's got the lock ring in there as well. We're going to install these, and what I'm going to do is keep one of the old ones for an emergency in case we have an issue out on the trail where we bend one. We'll at least have one. So let's get into this. First thing you want to do is you want to have enough room where you can roll this thing forward and back a full turn of your wheels. Because the way we're going to do this is you have to take a measurement from the front and the back of the tire to get your proper toe in. So our first order of business is going to be checking the air pressures and getting them correct in all four tires. Now I'm going to set them all at 16 psi. It doesn't really matter what the pressure is. You just want to make sure they're all even. .7/8 wrench. Lock nut on the tie rod end is the same size as your wheel lug nuts, 19 millimeter. Once you take that nut off, it's probably not going to come apart. You can use a fork to pop this, but it'll generally damage your outer boot. A couple of taps right here on the knuckle should free it up. Now you can unscrew your outer tie rod. Now if you're just replacing the outer tie rod, it's super simple. Put your new one on, and there's no problems with measurements or anything because your lock nut is still going to be in the same spot. Now we have to remove the lock nut to get the boot off, but before we do that, let's go ahead and put a mark on it. Of course, we're replacing this part, but we'll transfer it over to the new one. At least this will let you know a good starting point of where to put your lock nut back. Just darken that back up a little bit. Now the inner clamp, use a pair of dikes, diagonals. Just cut it, work it a little bit. Be careful not to damage the boot. You just grab your boot and give it a pull. Now at this point you can just go ahead and get in there with an 1¼ wrench. A little bit tight to get in there, but that works. I have a tie rod tool specifically for taking these off, so I will use that. And this one actually came off really easy, so yeah, so this is what I'm seeing here. This is your locking collar, and these two little tabs sit down inside the rack, and they're supposed to be peened over into these 4 slots, and that keeps this tie rod from backing out. I have a feeling that these tie rod ends have been replaced before and nobody actually peened them over, and this is just loose because this tie rod is super tight. I'm gonna go ahead and put a new one on anyway since I have it. So here's my new one. Here's the locking collar. Go ahead and thread this in. Now we want to make sure that those tabs fall inside of those slots. Once we're good, we go ahead and snug this up. I want to say it's something like 43 foot-pounds. I'll put the spec on the screen. Sometimes it can be difficult to get at, just when he's a punch and a hammer. Try to get as many as you can. Once you get those 4 staked, set your old tie rod end up against your new one. Put your mark. Again, it doesn't have to be exact because we're going to have to make an adjustment afterwards. Now you can go ahead and buy that clamp and fight with this endlessly. I just use a zip tie. They work beautiful. Now you want to put this adjusting nut back on with the threads facing outward and the hollow hole facing inward. Back to where your mark is. To do our alignment, next thing we want to do is find the center of our tire. Easiest way to do that is lay the tire down on a flat surface, get a broomstick or 2x4 or something that you know is straight, and you want to measure from the ground to the bottom of that item. I've got 9 1/8, so that will give me 4 9/16 as a middle point. Go ahead and just mark your tread forward at that middle point. You could see that basically lines right up with this center rib, so that's telling me I'm pretty much dead on. Now use something that you can see, obviously, because you're going to have to look for these marks, and do it on both tires. Once you get the car back down on the ground, you want to go ahead and jounce the front end, get it to settle in. You can roll it back and forward a few times. And then go ahead and make sure your steering wheel is straight. Now, your steering wheel is something you're going to have to check on continuously throughout this measuring procedure. So as you can see, my marks are in the front, about equal across center line of the wheel. We want to take a measurement across here, then we're going to roll them back 180 degrees and take a measurement across the back. So now we can start turning our tie rods equal amounts on each side until we have about 1/4 inch of toe in. In other words, the front has to be 1/4 inch less than the back. Now it's basically just adjusting, measuring, adjusting, measuring, adjusting, measuring. You get it. so I've got 55 3/8 in the back, 55 1/8 in the front. Measuring off the center of the tire since I have this rib. Now I'm just going to roll it forward and make sure that I have the correct measurement once I roll it. After rolling it forward, steering wheel straight, 55 3/8 in the back, 55 1/8 in the front. That's a 1/4 inch difference. This thing should ride beautiful. All I need to do now is just make sure that my lock nuts are tight on the tie rod ends. And then I'm going to just test drive it real quick, make sure everything's good. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please consider I can. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel a lot. I appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up. Show you more videos like this, and the bell will tell you when I put one of my new videos out. Again, appreciate you guys 100%. And now it's time to go have some fun.